817, that lump hits my throat every time we reminisce. And I wouldn't have thought, and I realize on a national scape, everyone might still be like, oh, it's Vin Scully and Kirk Gibson. And that was amazing. But for me, that's going to be the baseball call I think about above all others. And there's no question about that.
It's the first one.
For sure.
I mean, again, we're going to have Pete O'Brien on at 12:20 today.
Well,
and thank you. I appreciate that.
He's great.
He was, like, for me, he was childhood memory of baseball. He's responsible. Him, Pete Incaviglia, Ruben Sierra, they're responsible for a majority of us being Rangers fans at this point. You know, like we caught on with them then, and now we have that. Eric Nadel's been synonymous with that the entire way.
We know it because of that, and because he loves 105.3 The Fan. Let's bring on Eric Nadel. Good morning, sir. We're just living our best life, raising money for charity, and talking about the Rangers winning the World Series.
It really happened, didn't it?
Yes, it
did. It wasn't a dream.
It's like we're living in some alternate universe.
That is very true. It's incredible that they finally got the job done to give the Rangers Nation what they deserve. And this fan base, this is so, it's cool as a former player here. And then obviously we didn't get the job done. And then you get to see it done. I got to cover it and watch it happen. This is just so surreal.
People are so excited. You know, we're now almost a month removed.
Wow. From
November the 1st, we're 3 weeks plus. And the level of ecstasy doesn't seem to have gone down at all. Everybody's still on cloud 9. Maybe a couple of people have dropped down to cloud 8 or cloud 7. But for the most part, when they think of the Rangers are, it's nothing I've ever experienced, and it's truly amazing.
Yeah, the thing that I keep, Eric, that I keep feeling is whenever I'm at the grocery store or picking up my kids from school or whatever it is, if somebody sees me wearing a Rangers hat or a Rangers shirt or I see them, we just smile and we go, we did it. And it feels like that's the feeling of, like, it just feels good to be able to say that happened.
Yeah, and, every place I go now, someone will come up to me and talk about where they were, watching or listening to the final out of the game. And how they'll never forget that moment for as long as they live. And it's really nice for those sort of things, those sort of comments, to replace the similar comments that I've been getting 2011 for so much time, where people, have this horrible memory of where they were at the end of Game 6 in 2011. So this is 180 degrees different.
Eric, I've probably honestly teared up 5 times listening to your final call. I've teared up a few other times seeing highlights of certain situations throughout the Rangers playoff run. I don't know how emotional you get. I know you're not, you don't obviously cry on the air, but have you gotten emotional a few times just kind of reliving the run that the Rangers went on?
Well, Mike, I have, especially as people have told me, their own personal situations, where they were, they were with their father, or, they were 8 or 9 years old in 2011, when they had that big disappointment. And now, now they're grown adults with their own kid. And it's definitely something that has brought tears to my eyes on numerous occasions, more for everybody else specifically than for me.
Man, that's a great way to put it. As soon as you were talking about that, I was just thinking, like, getting to watch Game 1 of the World Series with my son, who's off at college now, but he was back for his birthday. And I was like,
wow,
that is a memory we will never forget. And he's of that age where, like, he kind of sort of remembers 2011, but he was only 6. And so I don't know if he'll retain all those memories, but that's a moment we shared that it will always be there. And knowing that it ended in a world championship, less than a week later, that memory will always be with us.
Yeah. And, the other thing people bring up is the parade. Mike and I and the other broadcasters had a chance to ride on a float in the parade, and to go through 600,000 or 700,000 people and see the delirious joy on people's faces was a really moving experience. You know, it was something that really hammered home the importance that the Rangers and baseball play in people's lives, and how generations of fans came out to the parade together, how they drove for hours. I talked to people who came from Corpus Christi, from El Paso to experience this. And that turnout, you know, was really surprising to me. I really didn't expect that. I thought maybe if the Rangers had a parade in downtown Dallas, you know, there are so many people already there that they would, you know, get hundreds of thousands of people. I never really thought that hundreds of thousands of people would drive to Arlington for the parade, not even knowing, you know, what their opportunity would be to see very much of it. And people were 5 and 6 and 7 deep at the barriers. And, you know, that's something that I'll never forget. And, you know, has really kind of motivated me to connect more with Ranger fans, you know, as I keep doing this.
Yeah, it is one of those that parade was amazing to see that many people just hanging out and everything. Eric, when I turned 21, I was going out for my evening, and a gentleman came up to me and said, "You know what's better than turning 21? Turning 22." And he was like, "Be safe tonight." And I was like, "I appreciate that." You know what's better than 1 World Series? 2 World Series. Well, how do we get 2nd World Series next year, Eric?
I know Josh Hader would be a nice start.
Yep.
Of all those free agents out there, he's the most appealing to me right now. I'm sure they'll come up with another starting pitcher or two. They might have to trade to do it. But I think signing Josh Hader would go a long way to solving those bullpen woes.
So I'm going to add a little bit there to getting ready for the next season. Eric, you saw in 2010, the following of the Texas Rangers got pretty big, but in 2011, it was 3 million fans. In 2012, it was 3 million fans, and then it dropped off a hair. What do you think this is going to do after seeing that parade, the championship being World Series champs, to the Rangers fandom and what could happen the next few years at the park?
Yeah, I imagine we'll be looking at around 3 million again. You know, it's a smaller stadium, so you don't have the opportunity to draw 48,000, 49,000 on the big nights the way you used to across the street. But, you know, I think we'll be right up there, close to 40 each night. And the other thing that's going to be really different, I think, and Mike Krukow, one of the Giants announcers, you know, former big leaguer, called me after the World Series. And one of the things he said was, the thing you're not going to believe is how many Ranger fans you're going to start seeing on the road in places where you didn't used to see them. You know, they're going to come out of the woodwork now in Detroit and Chicago and Cleveland and all these places where usually there aren't very many Ranger fans. Not to mention spring training, where I imagine Surprise, you know, is going to be mobbed with fans next February and March. Those are two things that I think didn't necessarily happen as much in 2011, but are going to happen now because the Rangers actually won the World Series.
We always love talking with Eric Nadel right here in your home of the Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan, but you've caught us on a particularly special day as we are raising money today for My Possibilities, the charity. This is the 10th annual, and I know you do a lot of work with charities, especially mental health causes and everything like that. Do you think people would be interested in bidding on a potential meal with you and Derek Holland, and do you think that's something we could auction off?
I'm in. That would be fantastic. I'd love to do that.
I'm in. You don't
Okay,
worry
good.
about me.
I just need to make sure
All right.
Derek was in, too.
I will
I'm
get
100% in.
that. I will get that assigned and put up on the website right now. Do we go with a picture of Eric and Derek?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we
All right.
have a picture of us?
I'll figure it out, dude. I'll make this happen. You just be ready, all right? Be ready
I'm
to
always
eat.
ready. Eric, you ready to eat?
That'd be great. Where are you sending us?
To be determined. I'll get back to you on that. I'll get back to you on that.
Does Eric Nadel have a story from obviously traveling all the years with Derek Holland on planes and in hotels? That's a funny Derek Holland story.
Or a mean one.
I'm curious.
I'd have to think about that one to try and decide what's usable on the air and what's not.
There you go.
And then
Smart.
also at 12:20 today, we got Pete O'Brien
Yeah.
coming on the show. So if you want to give that a listen, or if you have any fun anecdotes we need to remember about Pete O'Brien, we're here for it.
I actually have something that would be interesting for you to ask Pete about, because I remember one year in spring training, Dick Allen was a special instructor for the Rangers. He's a borderline Hall of Famer for me, and I'm a little disappointed he's not in the Hall of Fame. This guy was one of the greatest hitters of his generation. He got a bad rap at times as a bad teammate, but just an unbelievable hitter. And I think it was Eddie Robinson, the Ranger general manager, who brought Dick to spring training one time. And I remember him telling me how impressed he was with Pete as a hitter. And I don't think Pete was in the big leagues yet. He may have been knocking on the door at that point. But I want to know if Pete has any recollection of Dick Allen, working with Dick Allen in spring training, in that year. Would have been in the early 80s, and whether that had any real impact on him.
Okay.
It just came out of nowhere the other day when I was doing the Immaculate Grid.
Uh-huh.
And Dick Allen came up in my mind as an answer to a guy who had played for the Phillies and the White Sox. And then it just came into my head, the story about Dick Allen telling me how impressed he was with Pete's swing and Pete's discipline at the plate, as a young guy. So I haven't had a chance to talk to Pete since then. So maybe you guys could ask me.
Outstanding,
I love
man.
it. Yeah,
Look at
I
you
love it.
helping us out across the board. Thank you very, very much for the time this morning, good sir.
Anytime. Love to join you guys. Thanks for ringing me up, Derek.
Yes, no problem. We got to make sure we get the Rangers voice on the radio. Come on now.
Good point.
For sure.
Very
Hi,
good
Eric.
point.